Okay, sit yourself onto your lift. In fact, no, don't do that. Let's start off in supta konasana. So lay yourself down on the floor in supta konasana. Have a folded blanket for underneath your head if you've got one handy. Doesn't really matter if you haven't, but always useful if you have. Just bring the feet together, let the knees fall apart, and then rest your head down onto the folded blanket. Have your hands on your lower ribs and observe your breath. Observe your in-breath and observe your out-breath. Observe as you inhale that your chest expands upwards and outwards and the rib cage expands. The intercostal muscles between the ribs expand. And as you exhale, those intercostal muscles relax, the chest relaxes, and the chest kind of appears to shrink. So this is the body accommodating the breath. So as part of the natural functioning of breathing, the chest expands and relaxes. But it's not just the chest, it's also the abdomen. As you inhale, the diaphragm lowers, again accommodating the maximum inhalation. So the diaphragm lowers and the abdominal organs kind of move out of position and they move forwards. So the abdomen expands with the in-breath. And then with the out-breath, the diaphragm raises upwards to push the air out of the lungs. The intercostal muscles contract, helping push air out of the lungs, and the abdominal organs just move back into position. So as you inhale, the abdomen rises, chest expands. As you exhale, the abdomen draws towards the spine and the rib cage relaxes. It feels like it shrinks a little. So be conscious of the movement of the breath. Listening to the sound of the inhalation and the exhalation. As well as the expansion of the chest, be conscious of the expansion of the abdomen with the in-breath and the relaxation and contraction of the abdomen as you exhale. So these are natural actions that perhaps we don't ever pay particular heed to. Observe the abdomen is part of the breath. Observe that when we inhale from the bottom of the lungs to the top and exhale from the top to the bottom. And then we can draw that action of the breath down lower beyond the abdomen into the perineum. So the perineum is the very base of the torso, between the legs, between the genitals and the anus. So as you inhale, inhale from the perineum up to the collarbone. And as you exhale, exhale from the collarbone down towards the perineum. So we're not forcing the breath, we're just allowing the breath to be natural. We're just observing the action of the breath. So no holding of the breath, no forcing of the breath, just observation. Exhale all the way down to the perineum. This action in any way makes you feel tense, or any tension around the forehead or the throat or the temples, then just go back to just normal observation without the apanic element. The apanic element is the perineum. As you observe the breath, spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Something, someone, somewhere that brings a sense of positivity into your existence. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. As you draw your knees together, have your knees together and your feet apart. Just resting your hips in the opposite direction. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll onto your right side, stretch out the top leg, and then come back up into a seated position. Come into cross legs. So whichever style of cross legs most works for you. So half padmasana or swastikasana. Just sit on a lift if necessary. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. If you struggle to lift into the chest, if you struggle to draw the lower back inwards, then sit on a lift. Just lift the heart area. Draw the shoulders down away from your ears, and again continue the apanic breath from the perineum to the collarbone, and from the collarbone down to the perineum. We're not controlling the breath, we're definitely not holding the breath, we're just observing its motion. Look at the floor, look at something that doesn't move. If this breathing makes you feel in any way tense or anxious or anything other than alive and well, then just go back to normal breathing. Pull against the knees, elevate the heart area upwards, draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep apanic inhalation and then turn to the right side. Draw in your abdomen across your ribs, across your shoulders. Taking the back hand firmly into the floor, lifting up into the heart area. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Taking a panic inhalation and then turn to the left. Maintaining the apanic breath. Breathing from the perineum to the collarbone, from the collarbone down to the perineum with the out breath. Just letting the breath feel soft and natural, never forced. And then come back to the center. Come off your lift and then sit yourself back on your heels. Get the thumbs right into the backs of the knees and then draw the calf flesh out to the side and away from the knees as you sit back down on your heels. Let the legs just soften into sirvasana. Feel how the shins make contact with the floor. If you're on a soft floor, because I'm on a carpeted floor, and it's got a good underlay underneath it, so it feels really soft. That allows you to make contact with your shins into the mat quite easily. But if you're on a harder floor, then chances are your shins probably around the centre of the shin don't make contact with the floor. So push your shins into the floor, push the shin bones into the shin skin so that the thighs activate. Elevate the heart area upwards, draw in your shoulders down. Take a deep inhalation and then come forwards, keeping the seat bones on the heels, hinging at the hips. Maintaining that apanic breath. And then bring the forehead down. If you lose contact between the seat bones and the heels, have a block underneath your head. So without forcing or creating unnecessary tension in the breath, focus on apanic inhalations and exhalations. If you find that those inhalations are more difficult in Adho Mukha Virasana, then put a block underneath your head so that you don't come down quite so low. In fact, let's all put a block underneath our head because it gives you more space. So have it on the high end, press the area between the eyebrows into the block. Focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Extending deeply into the arms, hitting the heels back onto the seat bones or back onto the heel. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then push yourself up into a seated position. Just sit back on your heels for a moment, observe your breath, maintaining, if you can, the apanic breath. If you're not doing dog down, then come into dandasana. Otherwise, come up onto all fours, have your little fingers on the edge of the mat, stretch the thumbs towards each other, turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down. If you don't want to do dandasana, you can do supta, baddha, the pose that we began in. Because we're doing a pose, an asana that accommodates the breath. Dog down definitely accommodates the breath. The apanic breath penetrates more deeply in Adho Mukha Svanasana. It does the same in supta, baddha. In dandasana it's a little more difficult, but it's definitely still possible. So maintain that apanic breath. So just following the pattern of your breath, not trying to match anyone else's breath, just following your own. If I'm holding you too long in the pose, then rest. If you can stay and maintain, then do. Okay, on an out breath, just step your feet forwards, come up into standing position, and then bring your feet, have a couple of blocks for your hands, bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. So make sure that your feet are in line with each other at the toes. And then feel that your heels are in contact with the outside edge of the mat. Feel that your little toes are in contact with the outside edge of the mat. Have your hands on your hips, wing your elbows towards each other. Go back to the apanic breath. Or just breathe normally if that doesn't feel good for you. Just normal breathing if it causes any tension. Take a normal out breath. A normal apanic in breath. Activating the legs, and then on the out breath come forwards, hinging at the hips, keeping the head lifted, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, activating the fronts of the thighs like you're in dog down. and then reach down and find the blocks. Even if this feels really high in terms of the blocks, stay on the high end of the blocks. And then go back to that apanic breath. As long as there's no conditions that mean that you shouldn't push the breath. So heart conditions, I'm thinking mainly, or blood pressure that isn't being controlled with medication. If none of those things apply, then you can just work to move more deeply into the out breath, really pushing the out breath down towards the perineum. If any of those things apply, then just keep the breath soft, just keep the breath even. If you can go down lower, then do, but not at the expense of losing the extension of the spine or the legs. And then bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. And then come into Tadasana, just observe your energy. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Just move the blocks out of the way if they're on your mat. And then just observe your breath. Just maintaining the apanic breath if you can. Maintaining your activation of Tadasana, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, tucking the tailbone in, drawing the abdomen to the spine, lifting the heart area to the ceiling. So I did say we were going to do floor work, but just before we go back to the floor, we'll do trikonasana. So bring your arms out nice and wide. Lengthen from the heart area into the arms, into the wrists, into the palms, into the fingertips. Just maintaining that apanic breath. On an out breath, bring your arms in. And on the next out breath, step or jump your feet nice and wide. Go back to the apanic breath, or just normal breathing if you're just doing normal breathing. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. And on an out breath, come down into trikonasana, turning the chest upwards. Look up momentarily. But really, when we're focusing on the breath, it's better to look down. Look about a foot or so away from your foot. Just look at the floor. Just observe your apanic breath. As long as there's no problems, as I've mentioned, with a focus on the exhalation. Observe how the in-breath helps to extend the spine. How the out-breath allows you to move into the pose more deeply. So keep the legs and the arms and the spine and the body extending as you would normally do in the pose. I'm not giving you a lot of instruction there, but just extend as you would do. Try not to land on the shin, lift up into the top arm. Just breathe in apanically if you can. On an out breath, come back up. Swap the feet around. And on an out breath, come down to the left. Momentarily looking up. And then looking down, look at the floor about a foot away from your actual foot. Breathe in apanically with emphasis on the out breath. Use the out breath to extend into the body more deeply, to intensify the extension. If I'm holding you too long in the pose, then to come out of it, you can go into supta baddha konasana if you need to. And on an out breath, come back to the centre. And then step or jump your feet back together. And then come back up into Tadasana. Again, just focusing on the apanic breath. Do your Tadasana as you would typically. Focus on the breath, observing the energy that we glean from the inhalation and the exhalation. Again, just to reiterate, if there's any heart conditions or lung conditions that mean that you shouldn't overwork the breath, then just breathe normally. Okay, we're going to come back into dog down, into Adho Mukha Svanasana with head support. If you're not doing dog down, then go into supta baddha konasana. So the pose where you lay across the floor, the one that we started in, lay along the floor with your feet together and your knees apart. Otherwise, we're going to come into dog down, but you need a head support for this. So the bolster, it might not be enough. So if you come into dog down and you come up and you realise that your head is nowhere near the bolster, then what you do is just put a block underneath the bolster and then you build it up until it feels as though you could just rest your head. We don't want arms bent, we want arms straightened. We don't want weight on your head. You don't want to put lots of weight on your head, and so you still do dog down as you would normally, but the head is supported. But if you're not doing upside down poses, then if you're not doing upside down poses, then you come into supta baddha konasana. So breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Just focusing on deep inhalations and exhalations, working with the in-breath and the out-breath. Are you okay, Andrew? It says you raised your hand. Yeah. Okay, good. Just listen to the breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Focusing on the apanic breath. Again, dog down is a really good, and supta baddha konasana, really good poses for breath focus. So activate the body as you would in normal dog down. Let the forehead or the top of the head rest into the mat. Continuing to focus on apanic breathing. Okay, and on an out breath, come down. Stay. If you're in supta baddha konasana, stay. If you're in dog down, just come down onto your knees. And then just continue to observe the breath. To observe the in-breath and to observe the out-breath. Okay. You're going to have a bolster for your back. So keep your bolster where it is if you're in dog down. Otherwise, if you're in supta baddha konasana, then sit yourself up. And then we're going to use the bolster. Now, my bolster it's quite an old one, so it's quite flat. It can kind of flatten at the end, so you get this kind of nice little sense of a kind of almost a ramp. If you've got a really firm bolster, it can feel a bit kind of strong in your lumbar often. So you can just, if you want to, you can create a little ramp for your bolster with a couple of blocks like that. And for a really chunky bolster, that's often a little better. But otherwise, you can just come down, have a blanket for your head. And then we're going to come down into supta baddha konasana. So If you're at risk of being chilly, then you can use a blanket. So we're just going to do a little bit of Ujjayi pranayama. So I'm just going to cover my feet because they get chilly up here in the winter sometimes, and that you don't really want something that's going to distract your practice. So don't be sitting right up against the bolster. Have about a couple of centimetres away from the bolster, and then lift the chest as you guide yourself down onto the bolster. Now, the most important thing at this stage is that your chin and your forehead are level. If your head rolls back, then your chin is going to be higher than your forehead. You don't want that because that keeps the brain too active. So pick up the back of the head and then extend the base of the skull away, and then bring the head down. Use more lift underneath your head if it feels like your head is rolling back. If this is uncomfortable to stay in sirvasana, then you can straighten your legs out. If there's discomfort in your hips, you can put some blocks on the outsides of the thighs. Okay, just bring your arms to the sides of the body. Palms facing upwards, connecting the tip of the index finger together with the tip of the thumb. Just go back to the apanic breath. Or if you're not doing the apanic breath, just go back to observing your breath. Observing the rise of the chest for the in-breath and the deflation of the chest for the out-breath. Breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top, or from the perineum to the collarbone. Exhaling from the top of the lungs to the bottom, or exhaling from the collarbone down to the perineum if you're doing the apanic breath. Whichever breath you're doing, ensure that you are breathing into both lungs evenly. Adjusting it if you're not. Just focusing on filling the lungs and emptying them. Listen to the sound of the inhalation. Listen to the sound of the exhalation. Noting that the exhalation has got a different sound to the inhalation. Mainly because the sound of the in-breath originates at the front of the nostrils. The sound of the out-breath originates at the back of the nostrils towards the throat. So the first stage of Ujjayi pranayama is just to observe the breath, observe the action of the breath. The second stage is to slightly elongate the out breath. But again, if there's any heart conditions or blood pressure issues, then just maintain this first stage of the pranayama. So if you're doing the second stage, exhale normally, take a normal inhalation, and then long, slow, deep, steady exhalation until the lungs are empty, following the breath all the way down to the perineum, and then normal in breath. So stage 2 is slow, deep, steady exhalations until the lungs are empty. Don't force it if there's any issues with the heart or with blood pressure. Just finish the cycle that you're on, and then bring the breath back to a normal rhythm, normal inhalations, normal exhalations. And then when you're ready, just breath of normal breath, just push your elbows into the floor. Lift the chest, try not to poke your head forwards as you come up, push yourself up into a seated position. Just hold on to the big toes. Observe your breath in baddha konasana. And then bring your legs into just normal swastikasana, normal cross legs. Hold onto your knees. Turn with an out breath to the right side. Just letting your breath be normal now, no longer a panic breath, just normal inhalations, normal exhalation. Come back to the centre. Take a deep inhalation, and then with an exhalation, turn to the left. And gently come back to the centre. Just take the bolster out from underneath you. You can use that for underneath your knees. Have the folded blanket there for your head, and then just rest yourself down into shavasana. Again, just cover yourself up if you feel like you might be cold. Come down onto the floor. And gently just ease yourself into shavasana. Just normal breath. Listen to the sound of your inhalation and your exhalation. Feel the energy around the chest and the arms and the head and the neck and the legs and the torso. Let the legs completely relax into the floor. Let the arms and the legs completely relax, unhooking the muscles from the bones. Allow the body to become consciously heavy, and observe that out of that heaviness comes a sensation of energetic lightness, radiating from the bones and into the muscles, into the organs. Into the organs and into the flesh and the skin, which of course are organs. But we tend to only focus on internal organs when we say the word organs. So focus on the external organs as well as the internal. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness, drawing the breath down into the toes, into the fingertips, distributing that energy to the toes, to the fingertips and up into the top of the head. Okay, when you're ready to disturb yourself, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. To bring yourself back into this pose of shavasana, and then bend your knees. Bend your knees, have the feet apart and the knees together, just resting your back into the floor. And then draw your knees in towards the chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then when you're ready, gently roll yourself over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position and sit yourself in cross legs. Just come into cross legs with your hands in Namaste, a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through the nose and down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you released through your practice this morning, those extensions and the pranayama. Clean, positive energy you have released through your practice this morning. Very gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lift your chest up to meet your chin. Spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created around the heart area. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. Have the tip of the index finger together with the tip of the thumb, just a gesture of wisdom, physical intelligence and peacefulness that you can carry with you into your day. And then raise your head. Allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel like you've really woken yourself up, you've given yourself some good positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.